Ah yes, the Roland and Boss SP line of samplers, a popular tool of modern music production for well over 20 years, considered to be a toy by some and an indispensable secret sonic weapon by others. These diminutive samplers have a cult following by both underground and mainstream producers alike. In this series of videos, we will highlight several models in this series, discuss their strengths and their weaknesses, and perhaps reveal what has made these a tried and true production tool for decades. But before we get into what makes these samplers special, let's talk a little bit about what they're not. They are not MPCs. Sure, models like the SP-606 with its screen and jog wheel may look the part, but the workflow is still very different. We'll get into those differences in another video. Something else they are not is a chromatic sampler. That is to say, you cannot sample in a note and then play it like a keyboard. Some may be annoyed by that because, after all, even the ancient Casio SK1 could do that. But where these samplers lack features, they make up for it in innovative ways and with lots of character. So let's begin our in-depth analysis at the beginning with the Boss SP-202. Okay, so the Boss Dr. Sample SP-202, a small, unassuming little sampler that came out in 1998 with its sort of unassuming display and small form factor. One might be forgiven to think this was maybe the control surface for a metal detector or maybe some kind of enhancer device for your home stereo. But this was the beginning of it all, really, and continues to be an influential piece of design and music making technology. Now, I'm not going to go over every feature here, but we are going to talk about some of the key things that makes this sampler unique, both for itself as well as against the rest of the SP line. Now, being that this has over 20 years on its history now, it is pretty simple and primitive by today's standards. So a lot of people who go after these now are more of the collector type. But that being said, there are some things that make this unique among the SP sampler line. One thing in particular is the pitch. The other SP samplers don't have a very smooth pitch adjustment, whereas this one does. It seems to have the smoothest of all of them, which is kind of funny considering it is the earliest. But I'll give you an example of that here real quick. So I've got a loop. Just a little chill beat that I put on here real quick before the video, and I'm going to show you the pitch control on this. And you can see you can turn it down and it just adds this sort of gritty darkness to everything, but it's still smooth. It retains the original character of the beat, whereas the pitch on the others kind of tends to add chop and distortion and things that aren't really pleasing to the sound of the sample, but on this one it does not. And you can turn it way down, and it can take a beat and just turn it into something with a lot more character and darkness and grit and all of that. So that's one of probably the most sought after reasons for people to get this particular model. That and folks who, like me, who are just collectors and they just kind of want to have it in their collection. That's one of the main effects, I think, that make this one interesting. The other is the filter. And I personally think this has a very delightful filter on it, very usable, especially this filter 1, which seems to be the low pass of the two. And I'll show you that one again real quick. So. It's pretty mild compared to some filters. For a low pass, it actually still allows a fair bit of mid and higher frequencies through, because I can turn this all the way on. And I can still hear that do pretty clearly, whereas some of the other filters you might only hear the bass, just sort of this low rumble. This one still lets a fair bit through, but it's definitely a usable effect. The other filter is more of a band pass, and it kind of adds this sort of weird resonant crunched thing. So let's hear that real quick. This one to me is more of a set it and forget it kind of filter, like kind of find the nice little balance. That's not bad. Kind of gives some character. Now if you put a reverb behind that, it might be interesting. The other major effect we've got here is ring mod. And to me this is pretty much unusable, but I'll turn it on so you can hear it. Maybe used sparingly for little breakdowns or little elements you add to another beat. You might find some use for it. To me, I don't really hear much. So that's kind of it for the effects on here. There's a delay as well. I guess we can hear that real fast. So mine doesn't seem to be working right now, so there, we'll skip the delay. Something else that's really interesting about this sampler is Lo-Fi, Lo-Fi 2. You can sample things in at those bit rates. No, I want to say Lo-Fi 2 is like 4 bits, which is crazy low for a sampler. I mean, even this little P033KO is 8-bit. So that's 4-bit is like, that's below like Nintendo, like NES. So it's really, really gritty and crunchy, but I'll show you something that I sampled at Lo-Fi 2 at the 4-bit so you can hear what it does to a sample. I mean, it basically sounds like a really old arcade game with digitized sound in it. So that might be good for B sections to a beat if you want to have a breakdown and you want it to like all kind of just get real gritty and crunchy and nasty. Maybe resample into Lo-Fi 2 so you can have that little breakdown. So yeah, that's about it. Otherwise the functionality is very similar to the others. You've got this hold, the source, these 8 pads, the record and mark buttons are here, delete, sort of choosing the bit rate of your samples, reverse, loop, one shot. These sort of things are all kind of in the same place. This numeric display, the banks A, B, C, and D. These things are all design cues that have proliferated and existed all the way through all the other SP models. So this is the first. It's definitely the simplest, but it was certainly the precursor and foundation of all the other models that came after. So that's it for episode 1. Just wanted to give you this brief overview of the SP-202. Next time we'll do the SP-303 and we'll get into depth and we'll kind of talk about some of the differences between this one and that one. Alright, so if you're not yet, subscribe, like, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'll try to answer those in the next video. And in the meantime, guys, have a great day and happy music making to you.